Now we turn to number 3 in our series on themes in the book of John. This one's entitled The Backstory, The Prologue, and this is concerning primarily John chapter 1. And that's an amazing treatise. It's beautiful language. It's very meaningful and very personal, I would say, because it's talking about Jesus, the Creator, the Word, the one who was always with God, who was God. And I think John has thought about all the different things that he experienced in his time with Jesus. He's looked at the other gospel accounts and he says, yes, that's all important, and that was really very necessary. But as I've thought about it, this is what I really think it means. Jesus, the one that I knew, the one who called me the disciple whom Jesus loved, is the one who made all this. I thought it through under the inspiration of the Spirit, and this is the conclusion I come to. And maybe we should pick up John chapter 1 and just have a look at it to see what it says. In the beginning, the Word already was. He was there in the beginning. In the beginning of what? Well, in the beginning of everything. The Word was with God. The Word was God. From the very beginning, he was with God. Everything came into being through him. Nothing came into being without him. In him was life, the life that was the light of everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not extinguished it. And there you have an amazing tribute to Jesus, the Word, especially that part that everything came into being through him. Nothing came into being without him. And as I looked at some of this material in terms of people's ideas of what it means, I came across some very interesting quotes. Here's some from Albert Einstein, surprisingly enough. What really interests me is whether God had any choice in the creation of the world. He's arguing, I think, that because God is God, that's what he had to do. Now, I'm going to leave God with free will in the same ways he gave us free will. But it's an interesting concept, isn't it? If God is the kind of person we believe him to be, he wanted to have a universe. He wanted to have created being. He wanted to have planet Earth and us in it. Not that I think that there was compulsion, but there was certainly a desire for friendship, fellowship, for relationship. Another one from Albert Einstein. I want to know how God created this world. And I think that's an interesting perspective from a noted theoretical scientist who gave us all these various principles. After having studied it, he could do the math, he knew the physics and so on. And he's saying, I want to know how God created this world. I'm not interested in this or that phenomenon. No, sometimes we get sidetracked. What about the physics of this? What about the chemistry of that? And how did that happen? What about this aspect of cosmology? Or how did this planet form and things like that? We get very interested in those kinds of things. But he says, I'm not interested in this or that phenomenon in the spectrum of this or that element. You know, we look at the spectrums of the different elements to determine what's there, and we even know that the universe is expanded because of the red shift in the wavelengths as things move away from you and so on. He doesn't want to know that. He says, I'm not interested in the spectrum of this or that element. I want to know his thoughts. The rest are details. The rest are details. I want to know his thoughts. There's something for us to consider, isn't it? As we think of the book of John, as especially the introduction, which is really so very significant in terms of what we understand. He begins by this wonderful description of Jesus The true light was coming into the world to give light to everyone. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, creator, the world didn't know who he was. He came to his own people, but they didn't accept him. But to all those who accepted him and trusted in him, he gave the right to become God's children. The Word became human and lived among us, and we saw his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son, full of grace and truth. What an amazing statement. Something for us to really deeply consider, to meditate about, and to discuss. So I hope you take this time in your studies to think about what that really means to you and those around you.